The yamas are actually attitudes and behaviors that as yogis and yoginis, we really need to adopt, right? And I want to remind you that it's not something that we want to adopt because it's a religion. It's not a religion. It is a way of life. If we were to adopt all of these things, society would be much better. And I remind you again over and over and over that these are the universal laws of success, right? So the attitudes and behaviors, we must be mindful of our attitudes, our behaviors, and our thoughts 100% of the time, okay? So the yamas consist of 5 rules, right? And the first one is ahimsa. Ahimsa means lack of violence, right? Imagine if we all practice ahimsa, would we have any wars? Yes or no? No. If we practice ahimsa, if we taught ahimsa to our children, would there be meanness? No. So ahimsa means no meanness, no violence, act with kindness, friendliness, thoughtful consideration for others. So when you put somebody else first, it's so different, right? So different. Everything is so different, right? But when we do things and put ourselves first, there's always envy, greed, and oppression there. And interesting how envy, greed, and oppression spells ego, right? And so what we want to do is we want to adopt an attitude of kindness and respect to every single living thing. That means plants, dogs, and yes, ladies, that means spiders. Right? So, in other words, you can't just look at a spider and go, ah, kill it. No, you got to go, oh, move it. Right? And you take your shoe and you try your best to get it out of the way. If it gets smashed on the way, you did your best to get it out of the way. But don't just walk up to a spider and go, ah, spider! And then look at it and expect it to move, right? Isn't that what we do? It's so funny. If you ever watch people, they'll go, ah, spider, stomp on it, then move back, expect it to move. Interesting, right?
I think spiders are useful.
Yeah. Yes, they are. And so everything in this world has a purpose, even snakes. And I don't like snakes, right? But they have a purpose. Otherwise, they wouldn't be here roaming the earth with us, right? And so we have to be careful. Ahimsa means always lack of violence first, right? And we absolutely refrain from harmful actions, thoughts, and opinions to others. Okay, let me repeat that part. Actions, thoughts, and opinions to others. Why? What happens to us when I have a thought like, God, she looks like a worm in that? Right? If I have that thought, what happens to my behavior toward her? To my person? What would normally happen?
You would lower your vibration and...
Right. What would you see physically?
Maybe not a very attractive facial expression.
Right.
I don't know.
Right?
This is mean,
If
I guess.
watch somebody, and what happens is we become contracted. We become contracted. Physically, we become contracted. Something in our body will contract when we're actually out of, because we're not in alignment. We're not meant to do that. We are meant to be loving beings. We serve one purpose in life. What have I said that? What is your greatest purpose? Our biggest purpose in life is to be of service to someone else. When we are of service to someone else, when we remember that we're here to be the best version of ourselves we can possibly be, that's truly our purpose. And how do we become the best version of ourselves that we can possibly be? Is when we are of service. When we're not doing something that serves the world or serves some sort of purpose, we feel out of place. Do we or do we not like to help others?
We do.
It's ingrained in us. That's who we are. So we are of selfless service. But when we serve ourselves, we are in ego. When we serve ourselves, we are in ego. When we think about me, right? When we think about me, you guys just did that. You guys just did the hugs thing, right? How many of you guys did not do it? Everybody did it? Okay.
I have 8 classes that I gave lots of hugs, or I got lots of hugs.
All right. So what happens is that why I had you do it, is perfect, in perfect balance with ahimsa, and in perfect balance with chakra number 1. That's your homework, to read chakra number 1. I'm taking aside, but chakra number 1 is your homework in the book. Now listen to what you got to do in all your chakras. In the book where it says the chakras, in your journal, you've got to answer all of the questions, which is only 3 or 4. They're self-reflective questions. And then you've got to read and summarize the first chakra and liken it to ahimsa. Liken it to ahimsa. In other words, find the similarities. Find how it all works together. When we are in ahimsa, we have a healthy chakra number 1. Right? So you're going to find things like that. All right? So that's your homework. Now going back to the hugs one, because this all ties in. Share with me, please. What were your feelings? What were your thoughts as you guys were blindfolded? Alicia? If you don't raise your hand, I'll call on you.
Hoping I'd get a lot of hugs.
Okay, so you wanted to give a lot of hugs.
Hoping
That
that
was,
people would be nice.
is that what was happening in your mind while you were blindfolded? What would have happened to you if you wouldn't have gotten any hugs?
No question.
Right? It's all here. Isn't that interesting? It's all here. But she went into it with expectations. Sometimes when we go into things with expectations, we set ourselves up for failure. We have to detach. We need to move into the journey, whatever it is, with a detachment. The more we detach, the more that we realize and pull ourselves out of it, that we can actually gain more success that way when we detach. Anybody else want to share? What were you feeling? Yes. Selfless? Okay.
I
What was happening in your,
really wasn't thinking about the hugs per se.
okay,
Just steady. I have no self. So, all melted up.
did you get hugs?
I got a lot of hugs.
Oh, wow, okay. That's good. Is there anybody here